Let's talk about something that affects every single one of us. It's one of the biggest questions of our time, really. What happens to the world when the very people who feed us start to disappear? We're going to get into this global crisis of the vanishing farmer and really break down what it means for all of us. I want to start with just one number: 160,000. That's how many farms vanished in the United States alone just between 2017 and 2024. And listen, this isn't some slow, gradual trend. This is a full-blown exodus. And it's happening all over the world. And that, right there, is the big question, isn't it? This isn't just about small towns or a particular way of life. We're talking about the very foundation of our global food security. So let's figure out why this is happening. So the first big piece of this puzzle, it's all about demographics. You see, we're in the middle of this massive generational shift, a changing of the guard. But here's the problem. There's almost nobody lining up to take over. And take a look at this, because it really shows you this is happening everywhere. In the US, your average farmer is 58 years old. In the EU, it's 57. But then you look at Japan. Wow, the average age is nearly 69. That means over 70% of their farmers are past what most of us would call retirement age. An entire generation of knowledge is literally about to walk off the field, and there's no one to pass the torch to. Okay, so besides the age factor, what else is going on? Well, it comes down to money, or really the lack of it. For so many people, farming has become this high-risk, low-reward business, and often it's a no-reward business. Look at this. This is the money inside of the equation. Just a couple of years ago, corn was selling for over $7 a bushel. That was pretty good. Today, it's down closer to $4. That is a massive, massive pay cut for a farmer. But here's the real kicker. While their income is tanking, their costs haven't dropped one bit. In fact, their costs have absolutely skyrocketed. This number, $467 billion, that's the projected cost for U.S. farmers to produce our food in 2025. That's a record high. To put that in perspective, it's $85 billion more than the 10-year average. So they're making way less money, but paying way more to do their job. So where's all that money going? Well, you can see the breakdown right here. Labor costs are a huge chunk. Fertilizer is still incredibly expensive because of what's happening globally. And with interest rates going up, just paying the loans on your land and your tractor, that's a massive bill. There's just no easy way to cut costs. So what happens when you put it all together? Falling prices, record high costs, you get a financial nightmare. These are the projections for 2025. Farmers are expected to lose money on almost every major crop they plant. Think about corn for a second. They're projected to lose over $169 for every single acre they plant. How can anyone run a business like that? It's not sustainable. And what's the end result of all that red ink? Well, it's exactly what you'd expect. Farm bankruptcies are soaring. We're talking a 46% jump in just 1 year. And if you look at the American heartland, the Midwest, it's even worse, a 70% spike. This isn't just numbers on a page. This is families losing everything. But it's not just about the money. There's a huge social shift happening here too. The whole idea of the family farm, which was once the bedrock of rural life, is now in trouble because, well, where's the next generation? This is probably one of the most important questions for the future of our food. If your parents were farmers and their parents were farmers, what is stopping young people from carrying on that legacy? Well, the hurdles are just immense. I mean, first off, the income. It's often way lower than what you could make doing something else. And then how does a young person even get started? Land prices are through the roof. But okay, let's say you find some land. Now you need a loan, right? Well, over half of young farmers who apply for loans get rejected. And on top of all that, a lot of rural areas are shrinking, which means the things you need for a good life, like schools, doctors, and just stuff to do, are disappearing. All right, so if all that wasn't tough enough, now let's throw in another massive, unpredictable problem: climate change. Farmers are on the absolute front lines of this thing, and it's making an already hard job feel almost impossible. This is a glimpse into the future of where our food will come from, and it is a radical change. The places we've always counted on to be our breadbaskets, they're facing huge losses. Meanwhile, new areas in the far north might open up. We're talking about a fundamental rewiring of how the world grows food.
And even if farmers do everything right, they switch their crops, they change when they plant, even when they adapt, the outlook is still pretty grim. In a high-emissions world, scientists figure that global yields of our most important crops will be down by 24% by the end of the century, compared to a world without climate change. That's a huge deficit.
And this quote just hits so hard. A farm's most important asset is the land, sure, but it's also the stable climate that makes the land productive. As Professor Hyang says, if the climate itself is depreciating, it doesn't matter how well you take care of everything else. The farm you pass down to your kids might not even be a farm anymore. So you've got farmers aging out, you've got them getting squeezed financially, you've got climate change beating them down. What happens next? Where do all these farms go? Well, the land doesn't just sit empty. It gets bought up, it gets consolidated, and that changes everything about our food system. We're basically looking at two very different paths forward for our food. On one hand, you have a world of independent farms. That means our food system is spread out, it's resilient, you get lots of different kinds of crops, and rural communities are stronger. The other path, where we're headed now, is toward a system run by just a few giant corporations, growing only a few types of crops. That means we become totally dependent on them. And make no mistake, this isn't some far-off possibility. It is happening right now. Today, in the US, just 6% of farms, and we're talking the biggest, most corporate operations, already control more than a third of all the farmland. The power and the land are already being concentrated into fewer and fewer hands.
At the end of the day, this whole crisis comes down to a very human scale. Farming isn't just about spreadsheets and technology, it's about people. People who are willing to take on all that risk and all that hard work to care for the land. And as they keep vanishing, we really have to ask ourselves, when they're all gone, who's going to be left to grow our food?